and to all of those of you who just joined and have heard us talking about hair, you are in the right place. This is a webinar on sustainability. You haven't kind of landed accidentally on some kind of hairdresser convention, so you're in the right place. Quick housekeeping stuff. So first of all, Tyann has put a poll on the screen just so we can understand where you're from. And we'll be running another few polls throughout the webinar. And you just need to answer once and then we'll give you the results afterwards. If anybody has any questions at any point, don't be shy. You don't have to speak them, you can type them. So there's a chat box. So just drop your question in there. We will usually answer the questions at the end, but if there's anything that's really kind of very critical that should be addressed in that specific theme that we're talking about, then we'll pick it up then. Yes, the UK is still, well, are we still Europe? Let's not go there. Let's not have that discussion. Yeah, so if you've got any questions, just go ahead and chime in. We have 6 of us on here, so I will be moderating along with Tyann, and then we have our 4 panelist guests. Each of their names and their businesses are underneath their photo, so if you're struggling to know who anyone is, you should find it there. Tyann, anything else by way of housekeeping before we dive in?
Yes, I'd like to introduce all of our panelists.
Let's do that, yes. Okay.
All right, so by the way, Andy was just speaking, Andy McNulty of Touch Day. I'm Tyann Marcink of Touch Day. And each of our panelists, after I introduce you, please say hello. So the screen is on your name. First, we have Bob Garner, the owner of Casal de Fichi, sustainability advocate.
Hi, everybody.
And Bob, you are in Italy, correct?
I am in Le Marche, Italy.
Thank you. Okay, and the other ladies, I would love for you to say where you're at currently, because we are in such a wide range of places. Next is Nikki Mattei, the owner of Villa in the Vineyard and sustainability marketing strategist.
Hi, everybody. I'm also in Italy. We're a sustainable lot in Italy.
Wonderful, thank you. Then Anne Zschiegner, the technical assistance advisor at The Long Run.
Hey everyone, and I'm based in Kenya.
Thank you, welcome. And we have Margot Schmorak, the CEO and co-founder of Hostfully.
Hi everybody. Yeah, I am not in Italy. I'm in San Francisco. It's sunny and cool here. Very, very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. And I'm in Missouri in the United States, and it's snowing on 4/20. Andy, over to you.
Weather forecast, or do you want me to start? Let's start. First of all, thanks everyone for joining, both panelists and attendees. This is such an interesting topic and such an important one. I'm not sure we'll do it justice in the next hour, but we'll certainly give it a try. We'll share the video afterwards, so everybody that maybe loses connection or wants to share it with other people, then you'll get that link. Just a little bit of introduction. So I'm not going to talk about Touch Day, that's not why I'm here, but it's very important for us as a business to think about how participants in travel, of which we are one, can not just take a stand and almost kind of greenwash it, but actually seriously consider how we can make a difference in our own little way. We're a small organization, but that doesn't mean we don't do anything. So we've taken the small step of offsetting our carbon as a team. I had a very interesting reply from a customer who said, yeah, but what about all of the other things that your product generates out there in the community? So you've offset everything that you have directly, but what about the use of your guidebooks? What about people who print your guidebooks? Or, you know, so there are things, but we're not going to tackle this at once. None of us are. So it's a road, it's a journey. And that's where we're starting. We also have families and kids, and I have young kids. Well, not so young anymore, they're teenagers, but they're certainly the future. And we have a responsibility, without being too earnest about it, to leave behind a better place than we found. And that will be very difficult. The second thing, by way of context, is that it's a very UK thing. Our Prime Minister Boris Johnson did announce today that they are going to aim for a 78% reduction in CO2 by 2035 based on 1990 emissions levels. And that's a step forward to the previous target they set to reduce emissions by 68% by 2030. Now, cynical or not, like you could say this is rhetoric, government rhetoric, whatever, and there's lots of things that one could cite, both good and bad, about what governments do, but that's the intention, and I think it's a brilliant intention, and we just got to give them the time through, you know, the COP26 agenda that's coming up in November as well. So that's our leaders. So back to us, like what can we all do? So I want to scene set it really. I don't want to dive in too much straight away about the things that we're actually doing and what we want to communicate to guests. But I want to start with why the panelists feel like sustainability is such an important thing to put at the heart of their business. And I'll start with you, Anne. I mean, you're running the long run, so you're not an accommodation operator, but the long run's whole remit is basically about this stuff. So why is it that it's so important to you and the long run founders? What is it about this that made the long run start?
I think for us, you know, business has always been told a little bit, you're part of the problem, but business and especially tourism can really also be part of the solution, and we can really help face the way, sorry, my computer's doing something really weird and I'm not sure what it is. But we really feel that tourism can be part of the solution. So the Long Run was founded on the idea to bring, and was founded with practitioners all around the world, to bring together best practices as to what is possible, what can we do, what can we aspire for, so that we can demonstrate to everybody what is the way forward. Because it's really important to, one way to understand where we are at now, but where do we want to go? And only by connecting those and then taking sustainability into consideration can we really shape our path forward. And then also looking at sustainability in all of the different facets. It's not just about environmental management or it's about commercial sustainability, but it's also about the communities we are surrounded by, the culture we are celebrating, the nature, the biodiversity that we all want to protect. So it's having that sense of responsibility, and it does make good business sense, because being more sustainable makes you more resilient, it makes you more efficient, and therefore also then creating better products and better services. So at the end of the day, it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. I particularly like that point about linking it to business benefit, business outcome, because that ultimately, you're still running businesses, but it doesn't have to be that one excludes the other. You know, they can very much run in tandem. So I like that. Thank you, Margot. You do have one rental. You said it's a very small rental, but you're mainly a vendor like us, Hostfully, and I know that for those of you who don't know, actually, Hostfully and TouchStay are semi-competitors. Like Hostfully has a broader product set, like a property management system, but from a guidebook perspective, we do compete somewhat. But there's a huge industry out there. We both coexist. But more importantly, I think in subjects like this, we have a really good opportunity to collaborate and work together on stuff. So, and I know I've seen the stuff that you guys are doing. So maybe tell us a bit about what you're doing, but also why you're doing, like why it is important to you.
Well, very simply, I believe that you should work in a job that brings you a lot of joy, and that you should feel really good about the work you're doing in the world, not just from a bottom line perspective, but also from the impact that you're having on people. And when I think about that, it means like the people who work at my company, the people who use my products, the people who supply stuff to us. And I believe that business is a way for me to connect, just like Anne said, to my community, right? It's not just a vehicle for making money. And then when you do things with a sustainability lens, it's just in the best interest of everybody. So I was so excited, Andy, when you also mentioned that you guys were focused on some sustainability stuff for TouchStay. Hostfully, we're also carbon neutral this year. We made a commitment last year. But I just want to mention that it was kind of a hard conversation, because there was a lot of interest and excitement around, like, let's do something that's good for the environment. Let's do something through our products. You know, how can we get this as big as possible? And it was really challenging, actually, to figure out, like, what should we focus on? How much does it cost? What are we sacrificing, you know, in order to do that? There's a framework that I've actually used for looking at diversity and inclusion initiatives that, says like, you got to start with your mission statement and then you got to go inside out. I'm really excited that we're both doing that together at Touch Day and at Hostfully, because we're both saying like, hey, we're going to start first and make this choice and make this commitment. And then we'll start thinking about what ways that we can incorporate it into our products to make it bigger than us. And I wish more companies would do that. But the thing that's cool is that even though we're tiny little companies, I mean, compared to large companies out there, we can go to larger companies and say, why aren't you doing something? Like if we're a little business and we're struggling to survive as a company, we're not struggling, but you know what I'm saying? If we're like just trying to make it work, why can't you do something? Like this is not that hard. So let's do it together. So we're kind of issuing a challenge to the industry. And I like that kind of like gets me going. And it helps me think that in the long run, whatever business we build with Hostfully, I'll be able to look back and say, yeah, we did the right things and we pushed people in the right direction and we pushed people's thinking in the right direction, especially around sustainability. So that's kind of the full circle. But of course, there's a lot of other considerations, but that's sort of where it came from and where it's going.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, Margaret. I think that, like you said it, like we're just hacking away at trying to grow our businesses, and yet we managed to carve out time to focus on this kind of stuff. And I don't think either of us is sitting here thinking, great, we've got a halo on our heads, but it does kind of, I saw your shout out on LinkedIn, which is, we've gone carbon neutral. Why the heck aren't other people doing it? But the trick, I'm sure you found it, the trick was to really figure out like how much emissions you generate as a business. It's not an easy thing to do. And we were certainly challenged to think about doing it properly, not just kind of, write down a number on the back of an envelope, but think really about stuff. So I share a lot of what you said. I think it's brilliant. Thank you, Anne and Margot. So from the accommodation provider's perspective, Bob, I know you've been all over the socials this last week, so I know you've got a lot to say on this subject. Is it possible to condense it down to like a couple of minutes? Sure. I mean, let's ask a specific question. Why do you, as an owner of Casal de Fichi, put sustainability at the heart of your business? And I know you've done it for years, but why?
Well, when we set up the business 15 years ago, we knew that we wanted to have it as sustainable as possible. And really, we developed it over the years. It wasn't always as sustainable as it is now. And we've still got more to learn. We're not perfect. There's always a journey, as you were talking about earlier. But I think what's really important for us is that we've got this amazing opportunity to communicate this topic to so many people. So not just doing what we do, which is good, but we have the multiplier effect we have guests who stay with us, and we've got an opportunity then to influence hundreds of people each year and explain to them what we do, why we do it, and why it's important to us. So if you cut Casal de Fichi in half like a stick of rock, you'll see environmental sustainability all the way through. At every touch point in our organisation, there's reference to it. And so we get into conversation with guests and we talk about what we do, and not in a preachy or high way, but just explaining why we do what we do if they ask us. And then hopefully they take some of those philosophies, some of those ideas back home and implement in their own lives. And it's really inspiring for us when we get a message back saying, oh, thanks for that. I've just put some water dispensers in my house, so I don't have to buy bottled water because I can make my own sparkling water. Or I've just started a vegetable patch, or I've put some solar panels on the roof. Whatever it might be, it's really inspiring when you can get back to those people and say, well done, it's fantastic. They feel good about it, we feel good about it. And I think the thing that's important to us is that there's a very good speaker in this industry called Kathy Hayhoe, and she has a great phrase which says, the most important thing you can do is be an advocate for change. So we try in our very small way to do that. I do it through social media, I do it with our guests, and we try and make our business a little bit better each year. And the final thing I would say about it is to everybody, who's thinking of going down this journey is it's really, really addictive. You do a small thing, you see that it's successful, you see that your bills come down or your reviews go up or more customers come back and feed back some positive comments. And then you think, oh, well, I'll do something else now. And so it is like almost like a drug. You really, once you get into it, you think, what can I do next? What can I do next? And so I'd really, challenge and promote that to everybody to just have a go, get started, and I'm sure you'll get addicted like we are.
That's a brilliant point, Bob. Just start. You just start something. It doesn't have to be a gigantic thing. And we'll come on to some of the things that that you're all doing and that people can do who are listening who haven't started this kind of stuff as well later. Nikki, you're last on this, but I'm sure you've got your own perspective. I know when we first spoke a couple of weeks ago, you had some really interesting things about sustainability and going wider than climate, and maybe touch on that as well. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Well, I sort of come at it from the opposite angle, in the fact that my background is marketing, and been in marketing for about 30 years. And then probably over the past 15 years, I've been involved in what I describe as ethical marketing. So long before the word sustainability was even being used. And through that, I chose to live my life in a sustainable way. So I do practice what I preach. We live in Italy now. We moved here, my husband and I moved here about 3.5 years ago, and our plan originally was to build our own eco house, but we ended up in a property that was already built, with all the renewables, solar panels for hot water, photovoltaic, highly, it was knocked and then rebuilt using all the existing materials. So it was the dream house, but it was a lot bigger than we would have built ourselves. So we thought, okay, we've got a big house. It was already split into 2 apartments. So we decided to run the downstairs as a holiday let. And being me, I had to do it as an eco retreat. We already had a sustainable house. We saw that as an opportunity to make us different in this area. And so everything we do, like Bob said, has been run with that at the core of our business. And something that has always been important to me is that, sustainability isn't just about the eco side. I think when people talk about sustainability these days, they think, we've got to put in renewables, we've got to reduce our energy, but that is not necessarily the part that's attractive to guests. It is more the social side, the local community, the experience people can have when they come here. And I always say that, choosing to be sustainable, offering guests sustainable options, is not restrictive in any way. I mean, to me, you're actually offering your guests the best that's out there. If we offer, for example, organic toiletries for our guests, they won't think, oh gosh, that's organic, that's eco, I don't want that. They would see that as being an optimum and, the best product we could possibly offer them. So yeah, for me, sustainability is my life, and I try to do everything myself. So I've got a sustainable top on. I have a Fair phone, which I told Bob about, which is a Dutch phone, which is designed to be repaired by the owner. I've had it 7 years. So this is my life, and the fact that due to COVID, people are actually much more aware of sustainability. I think now we have an even better offer for our guests. And I would always say, why wouldn't you do it? Would anyone actually say, no, I don't want to save the planet for future generations. I don't want my kids to enjoy what I have. Who would actually say that? And I think that guests want to be part of doing their bit for the environment and for the future of the planet. And we as the tourism industry have a massive role to play in that. And
Bob, do you think the same? Do you think that there is an appetite from guests because there must be a segment of people out there who just think this is all still a hoax and I'm not interested in it. Like, what do you think that guests kind of crave this kind of stuff? Is it important to them to see that they're staying with somebody who offers sustainability or social responsibility at the heart of what they do?
Well, I think it falls into two camps. There are those people who are looking for sustainable accommodation and they come to you because you've got it. You know, so we have an electric car charger, and so we've got people coming to us because we're on the car charging database, and they cross-reference that with VRBO or TripAdvisor, and they find us or through our website, and they come and stay, and that's great. And so there were people who, and they have a philosophy also about being sustainable, and that runs through their lives when they go on holiday as well. It isn't something that you just take your sustainability hat off when you leave home. When you go away, they're also looking for that. But there's another community who are neutral or really have very little information or knowledge or idea about it. And that's fine too, because those are the people that when you get to meet them and you get to explain about it in a very simple, straightforward way, and then you tell them some of the statistics, they go, oh yeah, I never knew that. And then there's a sort of slight challenge, well, what are you going to do about it? I don't put it in that way, of course, but the implication is now you have that knowledge, you've got some power, and you've also got some responsibility. And so what are you actually going to do with that? And that's very interesting to see how people work on that. And, you know, if you look at the stats and the surveys, you know, Booking.com do a great survey every year, and they always ask a lot of ecological questions. And their survey from 2019 said that 69% of respondents, and there are tens of thousands of these respondents around the world, 69% are looking to accommodation providers to be more environmentally friendly. So that is an amazing number. And each year they do the stat and it goes up and up in each year. So there's a huge market in there that people can tap into. So do it because it's the right thing to do for the planet, but it's also great for your business too.
Go ahead, Margot.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear that stat from Booking.com. I also was just spending time just trying to find my reference on this. So Bernstein Research, which does like global accommodation analysis, and they look across the hotel accommodation market as well as short-term rentals. They published a study just this year. This is in March of 2021. They looked at the things that matter more to guests from post-COVID. And I'll tell you what the top four are. Cleanliness, no surprise, right? That was mattered 25% more. And then the next three are basically around like 5%. Reservation flexibility, also COVID, makes sense, right? Newness of properties kind of goes with cleanliness. And you know what the next one is? Sustainable, environmentally friendly practices. So that is like a global study done, you know, across thousands of people around the world into hotels, short-term rentals, whatever. So if you don't think that it matters that this could be a differentiator for you, you're pretty much wrong. Those are the strongest. The next ones have to do with like bathroom amenities and friendliness of staff, and then after all that, like the other amenities, property amenities, room amenities, hotel brand, price, those are all mattering less to consumers than they were before. So this is really a trending thing too, that it's not just that it matters now, but it's going to continue to matter more. And it's not just the short-term rental industry, it's across all accommodation. So it's really exciting to see that data too.
Nikki and Anne, you had your hands up. Anne, do you want to go first?
Sure. Just, you know, adding to that, I just think I think there's lots of studies now that have demonstrated how COVID has really helped, you know, shape awareness about what is important for all of us in our lives, and being connected, being with people, and being inspired and transformed is something that is really important to people. People want to experience things, but I think also we have to recognize that not everybody wants to showcase all the things that they're doing. You know, not every accommodation provider wants to say they're sustainable, because some of their clientele may think then, you know, they're getting shortchanged on something, or, you know, because there's also a lot of misperception still out there. But it doesn't mean we can't have that role of transforming and inspiring and just doing it, and using the opportunity when we have guests staying, that you can showcase how everything is interconnected, how what I am doing just provides you with a greater experience, with more insight into things that you didn't know about, and leveraging those things. So I think it's a really good way when people are coming, the experience that we're choosing, the products that we're choosing, like Nikki said, you know, she's wearing a sustainable top. It's, you know, it's all of the little things that we are ingraining in everything that we are doing that can help us tell the story, no matter if you are coming with that mind frame already or not.
Yeah, I agree entirely. It's how you communicate it to the guests, and you do it in a way that you know, enriches their experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you're talking about sustainability or saving the planet. You know, people are on holiday, but it's the way you just naturally change your narrative to include these things as part of the experience. And I think something I always say is that, you know, if you were looking at a number of different properties, and you had a couple in front of you, you know, same destination, similar price, similar facilities, and one of them was doing their bit for the environment, I just think subconsciously you would feel, yeah, I want to be part of that, because you're right, there is so much research coming out, not just in travel, but across, you know, all of our lives as consumers, that people do want to engage with purpose-driven brands. They do want to feel part of doing something for the planet. And it's going on holiday is not just about getting a suntan like it was when I was in my 20s. You know, we went there for 2 weeks, we lay in the sun, turned over after an hour. People now actually want to have more memorable experiences and actually be part of the culture. Like I said, the sort of social side of it is just as important as the environmental side. And we mustn't forget about that. And the COVID crisis has actually, again, driven people's perceptions around sustainability away from just plastic, that was the biggest concern, to actually diversity, inclusion, and thinking about the people who are involved, you know, in everyone who's involved in the travel industry.
Technical glitch. Unmute yourself, Andy. Yeah, I suspect 69%, Bob, is going to be different after the year we've gone through. Should be even higher. And that Bernstein report is really interesting. It'd be great to have the links to both of those if you've got them. We can share those afterwards. Terrific. So we've definitely checked the box of this is very, very important to guests. Tyann, anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, I was about to do the next poll, but I do want to talk, what about other social responsibility things that you all could do? I know for myself, environmental things, there's small things I can do, but we are in a community that even struggles to recycle. So for those folks who feel like, oh, I can't even do the simple stuff of recycling, or I'm a failure, I can't do environmental things, maybe the support in their community for that isn't there. What about other type of social responsibility things you can do? For instance, myself, our mission and our goal focus for our business is to support families and the family unit. And part of our mission of our properties is to give families a space to gather, a safe and secure space, no matter how their family looks, whether each family member looks different visually, or, you know, being accessible, handicapped, or even bringing Aunt Susie's little dog with them, because Aunt Susie's dog is part of the family. So providing those spaces, and then taking it a step further and supporting organizations that support families in our community. So for instance, we do the $1 per night donation.
Looks like we might have lost Tyann.
To our local Casal quarter-point special. But I do that's socially responsible. What I'm wondering, you folks, you know, very focused on environmental sustainability. What other things are there for people to do?
Go, Bob.
Bob?
Yeah. So we have a philosophy and a belief that when we work with suppliers, we'll use suppliers that are doing good themselves. So when we've got a choice and we're looking at 2 suppliers, you know, and it could be anything, consumables, toilet paper, whatever it is, we look at those companies and we'll say, what are they doing? So, you know, to give you a couple of examples, toilet paper, we use the company Who Gives a Crap. Maybe some of you are familiar with that. They give 50% of their profits to support people in developing worlds to build toilets. So, which seems to me like a great thing to do. Or we also give a gift to our guests when they arrive, which is a water bottle that they take away with them. This is from a company called Jerry. They give 100% of their profit to do the same thing to support people in developing countries. And so there's another way that you can use that multiplier effect is through your suppliers. If you've got a choice, choose the supplier that's doing good. Whatever the good might be, it might be environment, it might be children, it doesn't matter. As long as they're doing some good, then it seems to me that's a logical thing to do. Use the power of your money in that way. And so we do that with all our suppliers, and then we try and communicate to them that we've chosen them because of that reason, so that it reinforces the value that they've got within their business. So I think that's really important, and everybody can do that even in their private lives.
Go ahead, Nikki.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Bob. We also work with suppliers who are doing the right thing. So I mentioned we offer organic toiletries and cleaning products, and we work with an Italian company because obviously buying local is best environment. So we work with a company in Lucca who provide us with organic toiletries in large 10-litre containers, and we then we have containers that we then refill ourselves. So something very simple, but something that is environmental, both from the product itself and the fact that we're doing refills. And we recommend local people, local restaurants. There's a local organic farm, shops. Everything we try to do is helping the local community and keeping the money in the community. I mean, we have, Bob and I, we both have Italian accountants, all these things are actually bringing money to the region. So being really, integrated into the community is really important.
Anne, I'm thinking that this is like a big part of what the long run does. Maybe that's what you were about to talk about with your hand raised, but yeah, over to you.
Yeah, so for us, really, the important thing is like environmental management is often an entry point for a lot of people when it comes to sustainability. But, as everybody is saying, sustainability is about so much more than just water, waste and energy, which is hugely important, but there's more to it. So what we do is we look at it through a lens which we call the 4 Cs of conservation, community, culture and commerce, because it's really important to look at sustainability on all of its facets, because it is a wide field and it's important to look at each segment individually and give it its own space and time to explore what is it that could do. Like, how can we better protect the environment that we are surrounded by? How can we collaborate with the communities? How can we support them? How can we encourage their social and economic well-being, whatever shape, form or size that may be? But also looking internally, looking at your community, your own staff, their well-being is equally as important. And then also culture. I think celebrating culture, diversity is a really important aspect of sustainability that often gets slightly shortchanged, but has actually a biggest potential amongst all of them, because there's so many really unique things that you can do that really make you also stand out. And then last but not least, we also look at commerce, because you need to be commercial viable in order to support all of these great things, to select the right suppliers. You need the money to do that. So it's important to balance all of those things and have that kind of a 360-degree view of what you're doing, and really looking at, where am I strong already? So where can I build on that? But then equally as like, where are my opportunities? Like, what are others doing? How can I support those things? Or where could I have rather a role of leading the change, of being the driver for something that you feel, and from the experience or engagements you have, that should be pursued, that others could then follow?
I'm thinking on that theme of like what others are doing kind of more broadly, and I'm interested, Margot, slightly unfair question, sorry, because this wasn't one of the scripted questions, so like punch me afterwards. But I mean, you work with a lot of property managers every day. I mean, are there things that people are already doing that you think sort of stand out? Just like when we're talking about not necessarily climate as it comes to sustainability, but also the social aspects. Are there examples of that?
Yeah, there are actually a few great examples. And a lot of the examples that I have actually come from some of the work I've been doing with the VRMA, with the social, I don't know what the committee is called, Social Responsibility Committee, but basically it's like saying, there's more output from companies than dollars. It has to do with impact on people and communities and the environment. And so one of the most, there's 3 companies, Coconut Condos in Hawaii, Park City Lodging in Park City, Montana, and then Lynn Thurston's, I think it's called Water Sound Management. Yes, that's what it's called, Water Sound Management in upstate New York. They all, there's, what I've been looking for is like, what is it? They're doing different things, a lot of things that have been mentioned already, so I'm not going to repeat those. But the thing that puts those 3 in common is that they started from a mission statement internally, and they said, like, we're going to sit down and we're going to write something together, and it's going to be a collaborative effort. We're going to say, like, we care about the environment, we care about our community, and this is who we are. There's sort of a declaration piece, like just like tourism declares, Bob, just a side note. But there's a declaration piece. And then from that, they've developed their own frameworks. So Coconut Condos has this kind of building radius framework. So they say, like, what are we going to do for our immediate Hawaii community? What are we going to do for like a community that's kind of a little bit larger? Or I think, like, what are we doing for our guests, and then the immediate community, and then globally. So they have different initiatives that they've mapped out for their staff globally that they can participate in. And they encourage everyone to choose one of 3 every year. So it's like, what are you going to do for the micro, the slightly bigger, and then the super macro version? And then for Park City Lodging, they've done it a little differently, where they've said, like, we want to do one environmental thing per year. We want to do one thing that's going to be for people, like they've done breast cancer awareness, a breast cancer donation stays for their for people who need to come and recuperate. They have like another model, like they have their own framework that says, like, we're going to check the boxes every year, and we're going to make sure that we do one thing in each box. Same thing with Lynn Thurston in upstate New York. She was like, I'm going to advocate with local government to, make sure that the area around a lake is preserved properly, because that's just the right thing to do. It's good for my business, but it's also good for the environment. And I think that the common thing that I've seen property managers do who are successful is, number 1, they write that mission statement, and number 2, they figure out what framework works best for them. Anne has a framework. I learned one in business school called the triple bottom line, which is like another framework to use. And so I kind of have that in mind when I'm thinking about these different initiatives, and I'm constantly scanning, just like we all are, across my business to say, like, are there low-hanging fruit that I could just take off the table right away and know that that's going to make an impact for me? You also have to appoint an advocate internally to do that. So I help a lot, but actually I've asked our head of marketing, Brad, to be the leader this year, because somebody needs to project manage it and make sure that it gets done. So I think that's the kind of winning combination. It's like the mission statement, the collectively developed mission statement, the framework that the organization agrees upon, and then an internal responsible person. And when that happens, that's when you start to see really concrete actions. Whether you're a tech provider or you're a property manager, that's what I've seen be really successful for companies.
I think that's brilliant advice, because we can all kind of sort of sporadically do things, and it tends not to have a consistency, and therefore it tends not to have a momentum and not to have necessarily the biggest impact it could do. But with a framework that's driven by a mission, and then involving people in the business to own that, I think it's brilliant. I think it's great. Anne, you had your hand up sort of halfway through that. Did you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, sorry, just adding to that, Margot. I think everything that you said is more than right. I think that's also what we've been seeing with the members of the long run and beyond. But I think also for us, what we've seen with a lot of people is being strategic. I think, it's really important to have that mission statement and having a framework, but also really knowing where do you want to go and what role are you want to play in that, because otherwise, there can be 1,000,001 things that you could support, that you could lead on, that you could invest in, that you could donate to or spearhead. But at the end of the day, we can't do it all. So how do you need to have, you have to direct your attention to the things that further your own mission and your own vision, but keeping that in mind, because otherwise we may do 101 things, but they never ultimately achieve the impact that we are desiring. And the other thing I think for me, also looking internally, what we've seen with a lot of people is it's really important, as Margot said, is to have somebody champion sustainability or anything that you do, even if it's just community engagement or environmental management, it doesn't matter. But most importantly is also that you have buy-in from everybody. Because even if you're having just one person isn't enough, because then it's the responsibility of one within your organization. While if it is carried by all staff, by everybody, then you can really, it permeates everything that you do, and it will filter in all business decisions and operational things that you are doing. And then it becomes, as an organization or business, truly sustainable. So no matter if somebody leaves or moves on, the business stays the same, because everybody is at the same level.
Really, really well said. Nikki, yes, please, go for it.
Yeah, no, I was just going to really add to that. And I think as a property owner, the place to start is think about, well, why do my guests come here? Why do they choose me? What is it about my destination that's important, that needs protecting, and the experiences you offer? And then, what are you passionate about? The people who work for that rental, what excites you about it? And then you can almost take those things, and then you can, like Anne said, that you start to prioritize where you put your focus. A lot of larger businesses are using the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 goals, which cover both environmental and very much social goals. So a lot of big businesses are using those as a place to start and say, that really resonates with our business. If it's about life underwater, then packaging, we need to look at our packaging. So as a holiday rental, you can do the same thing and work out what makes you special, and then how you can translate that into sustainable social and environmental goals. Because you're right, you need to take small steps. This is probably not a good analogy, but how do you eat an elephant in small pieces? That is not the right thing for a sustainability webinar, but anyway, that came to mind. But yeah, just taking those small steps, otherwise it just becomes overwhelming.
I think that's a really good point, because our industry is it is made up of small operators, and there aren't necessarily big teams, and it's difficult sometimes to hear a webinar like this and figure out where to start or where to focus. Margot, yeah, you have something to say on that?
Yeah, just on that specific question, was just like, how do I start and where do I focus? So there's two things I want to mention. One is, it's totally okay to fail. Like we went through an exercise, which I'll explain how we did it in a minute. I still think it's valuable. And then we tried a bunch of things, and like a few of them, they kind of fell flat. Like it just didn't resonate with the team, or, we didn't get as much participation as we thought we would do. And that's okay. I think like this is a learning process, and we're trying to figure out where to focus. And like some people, like Bob has been at this for a while, and like I'm sure you have like a lot of learnings, right? Because you're like, oh, we tried something and then we tweaked it a little bit more and did this. So like you're not going to get it right the first time, and that's okay. So I think that's one thing to just like embrace going into the process. But the second thing is we did a really simple strategic planning kind of exercise where we thought about it like in a 2x2 of, effort and impact, right? So it's like, what is the effort that it's going to take me, or the opportunity cost that it's going to take me to do this initiative? And then what's the real impact that we're doing? And impact can be on customers, it can be on suppliers, it can be on, for us, it can be also on investors. And of course, employees, right? So we kind of like, that's what we used collectively to come to an agreement on like the things we wanted to focus on. And then we had a handful of things, and like one of them really, we did a matching program with a donation matching program last year, and it just like didn't work very well. I don't know why. I have some ideas, but once we did that, we were like, okay, well, that wasn't the best place to do or spend our money and time. So let's try something else. So then we tried, we're partnered with Stripe on a climate program where we give a little bit of every transaction to a Stripe climate program. We're working with Ecology, which is this company that offsets carbon emissions. And actually, one thing that I'm really excited about is that our investors, our venture investors at Hostfully are all non-traditional, they're not white men. They are one woman-led fund, one Black man leads a pre-seed fund in San Francisco. And then one of our investors is really a pioneer. She's the first female, gay, Black venture capitalists in the world who just wrote a book called It's About Damn Time. And so when I think about like the impact that Hostfully is trying to have on the world, I love the idea that I will be, you know, making more money for my investors who are also going to be driving important diversity and sustainability kind of practices throughout the world. So this is really like, it is, I love how everyone here is talking about community, but from my perspective, like your community might not look like, you know, my pizza place down the street. It might look like the people who I generate money for, right? And so that's also important to think about when you're thinking about sustainability. Just wanted to bring up the failure thing, though. It's okay to fail. That's the.
No, and so much of what you said there, I completely resonate with. The donation matching thing, flop. So I'd love to talk to you about that, but that's later. Bob, you'd raised your hand a while back, and Anne, I'll come back to you as well afterwards. Go for it.
Yeah. We've naturally moved into frameworks and analysis, and I think it raises a really important point. And obviously, I'm conscious of the people watching, and they may be looking for some sort of grounded solutions and tasks that they can take forward.
Well said. Agreed.
And I would give you a framework which develops into tasks. And I know that many of the panel are already connected to this, and that's Tourism Declares. So we know that 8% of carbon emissions come from tourism, 8%. And we know that we've got to get to net zero by 2050. And as an interim, we've got to reduce our carbon emissions by 50% by 2030. That's you, me, everybody on this call, every business, every country, everybody's got to get down by an average of 50%. So Tourism Declares is an organisation that several of us have connected to. It's a voluntary organisation. It doesn't cost anything. They're there to champion the tourism sector on our behalf, and they're there to help us develop a plan about how we are going to deal with our own emissions. So it's free to join. People declare, they say, I want to be part of the solution and not just part of the problem. They develop a plan over a year, which lays out, after some measurement, what they're actually going to do at a practical level to reduce their emissions, and where they can't negate their emissions, offset the final bits that they can't actually get rid of. And that's a tangible thing that everybody who works in tourism can do, is declare a climate emergency and then work with your peers in the sector to help develop the plans which will get you where you need to get to, which is getting your emissions down. Of course, there are lots of little small steps that you can do along the way. And I wrote a 10-point plan for hosts and property managers about those practical things that people can do. And maybe we could put the link to that in the show notes. But I would encourage people to think about Tourism Declares and get in touch with us, any of us, with me, and we'll certainly help you in that process, because it gives you a framework, it gives you a mentality, and it gets you in the right sense of where you need to be heading to. You don't have to have any of the answers now. You just have to hold up your hand and say, I know there's a problem and I want to be part of the solution to that problem.
Thank you, Bob. We will definitely include that. I think it's really important that we have these kind of really practical things that we can wrap our heads around and do something about. So thank you. Anne, I think you were waiting to say something a while back. Do you still need to say something?
Yeah, happy to. Building probably both on what Margot and Bob said. One is about that journey. I think it is more than okay to fail. We've all failed and we will all fail again. I think it's just what is going to happen, but also recognizing, Bob said at the beginning, is you have to take the first step on the journey. And if it's Tourism Declares and you make a commitment, a public commitment, then that is the first step on a journey. And it could be lots of different shapes, forms, or sizes that we do that. But being on a journey, you know, it's really important to also then tap into networks like Tourism Declares or others to learn from others. Because, you know, we from the long run, you know, we have members all around the world, you know, from New Zealand to Alaska to Europe to South Africa and Patagonia. It doesn't matter where you are. But the best practice when it comes to sustainability permeates everything and all different areas, no matter if it's an island or, you know, in the middle of the savannah. And that's important lessons that you can learn, so you can build on those experience and rather hope that we will fail maybe one time less, but failure is part of the journey, and that is very much okay. But I think that's why networks like Tourism Declares are a really important role to play now and also going forward, because if we can build on all of our knowledge and the things that we have trialed and tested, or the research that we have found, or, there's a place just to ask a question, where do I start? What do I do? And this is really important for all of us going forward. So we are not wasting our time, but rather using the time that we have to achieve the targets ahead of time, hopefully.
Yeah, I so love that concept of failing, because it's important not to just kind of throw stuff at the wall, for sure. That, like Margot said, there needs to be some kind of framework and some kind of mission beneath it, but cracking on and just like having a go and failing. Like Margot's mentioned something, and I totally resonate with it. We've both tried something that has not failed, that has not succeeded, and it's depressing at the time. But out of that, well, I might do it slightly differently next time that has more impact. And had we not started and failed, we wouldn't know that. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. Nikki, did you still want to say something? You'd have to.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I'm sort of here with two hats on. So I'm here with my Bill in the Vineyard hat, but I also work with a sustainable travel platform called Wayaj, who are literally there to help people on that sustainable journey. And I think you're going to see more and more eco-focused OTAs coming up. And there will be a lot, and there will be a lot of greenwashing, and you have to be really careful that you choose the right platform to go on. I mean, with Wayaj, we have a hotel sustainability rating system which covers 7 pillars, which have the most impact, both environmentally and socially. And it's been built by our sustainability specialist, and we offer support on that sustainability journey, because we know that it's not easy to get started. We know that some properties, through no fault of their own, might find it really difficult in one area because they're an island, for example, and it's really difficult not to import food, for example. So it is this journey that we're all on together. Yeah, and we've talked about failure, you'll try things. We have a group within LinkedIn called Sustainable Hospitality in Progress. You don't have to be a Wayaj member hotel. It's a group that I'm involved in running, and it's just where we can share best practices, things that have worked, things that haven't worked. So, there will be more and more organizations out there wanting to help. Certification is another area that is a good place to look if you want to actually, let travelers realize that you actually are doing what you say you're doing. So it's an area that's really exciting, and there is going to be a massive amount of new companies coming out, and a lot of them won't be around probably in a couple of years' time, but it possibly can be a bit overwhelming, but I think in the end what it will do is create, because we know that travelers, one of the main reasons travelers don't know how to travel sustainably is they don't know how to find the properties. How do we know? Booking.com do their surveys, and I'm sure they will come out with something. But it's something that there will be more help to come. There is information out there already.
Yeah, grand. We've got 5 minutes left, so if anybody on the attendees list wants to ask a question, now is your time before we run away. I just happened to sit, Tyann, I don't know, there's a couple of messages. Do you want to read them out now? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so one thing we've talked about, that there is low-hanging fruit. So I would like to hear from the panelists, you're just one of those low-hanging fruits. And in that, Ruth has asked a question. She wants to know specifically more about toiletries. So the small single guest containers versus larger containers, especially in COVID time, because larger containers, more people are touching it. And then solid soap versus liquid soap. So to me, that is one low-hanging fruit. So if somebody wants to cover that one, and then okay, Nikki will do that. And then each of you, just one low-hanging fruit that someone can just walk away and go do right now. Nikki, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I always have a client who are an organic cleaning company. So believe me, I did a massive amount of research around COVID, because I did not want to start spraying bleach everywhere. It just totally went against, everything I believe in. So what we do here is we have containers. So we have enough containers to be able to remove that container from the bathroom. So we have a ceramic container that we refill. So we remove that from the bathroom, clean it in the normal way, but leave it for a week or however many days. And then we have a second container that we actually refill from these 10-litre containers. So in that way, you know, we're not concerned about guests touching a container that another guest has touched. And with soaps, hard soaps, yeah, I mean, you're more likely to waste it. There are ways of taking used soaps and sort of making them into another soap. I know there's an organisation in the States doing that with large hotels. But for us, that works really well, that we have enough containers to be able to, you know, put out fresh containers. And I think for cleaning, I got around bleach by using, with this Italian company, by using, we clean using Castile soap. We know that soap is great for, you know, getting COVID off our hands. So we wash, we clean all the surfaces with Castile soap. And then I found a spray which contains 70% alcohol, which is the sanitizing effect, but is fragranced with organic lemon rather than some synthetic fragrance. So yeah, I think it's a really easy thing to do. That is one of the quick things you can do, is start getting refillable, buying in bulk and refilling.
Excellent. Okay, there is one other question that goes along with this, and if one of you can pop your hand up if you're going to take this one as a low-hanging fruit. Lisa asked us that, she says, as a bed and breakfast, there's a lot of small things she intends to do, but what's the best way to measure the impact of these changes? She's looked at a few online CO2 calculators, but they're not very detailed. And I'm thinking this would be a really good one for you guys. Bob?
Yep. Another reason to join Tourism Players, because they will help find you the best measurement tool that's suitable for your business, and that you can then know where you are, and then you can plan where you need to get to. In terms of a low-hanging fruit, I would say if you aren't already on a renewable energy tariff, talk to your supplier and get converted onto a tariff. Of course, it doesn't mean you're getting any different electricity down the wires, but it means that your money is being used to invest in renewables. And that's a big part of your carbon footprint. So just pick up the phone, talk to your supplier, say you want to go onto a green energy tariff, whether it's your home, whether it's your business, whatever. And if they say they haven't got one, or it's not good, or whatever, don't believe them, just contact another supplier. It's not going to cost you any money. It's often going to be cheaper. And that is a big way that you can start to have some impact on your carbon footprint and make a difference.
Great, thank you. Anne?
I think building on Bob's suppliers, I think, you know, a big thing that we have found that members are doing is talking to your supplier for goods and services. So there's a really easy way to just reduce packaging by talking to them, whether, you know, the plastic they may be normally using can be replaced by, you know, small bags, or they can just be, you know, just no plastic at all, or they can be put in crates for you instead. There's a lot of suppliers who are very willing to do that if one just asks for it. And that will really help in a very simple way, just to reduce your waste, you know, by literally just also, like Bob said, picking up the phone and talking to your suppliers.
Thank you. That's a good one. Margot?
Yeah, I would say this is a hard question because I don't run a property management company, so my answer is going to be quite different. But for us, definitely looking at carbon offsets and just signing up for a company that will help you do that based on your employee base. But then personally, we actually just did install solar at our vacation rental, and it was really a no-brainer. I mean, it's an upfront cost, so I appreciate that sometimes the capital's not there to afford that, and sometimes the location isn't suitable. But if that's a possibility for you, that's a huge way for you to change the energy footprint of your rental, and even more than some of the small plastics, which I also believe in reducing. But I look at kind of the biggest things I can go after, and that was the biggest one that we could take a bite out of first. So solar is the one I would think about.
Thank you. There's one more question, and then we can wrap it up, Andy.
Go for it.
Okay, so Benjamin asked, as responsible operators, would you encourage industry regulators to require all operators to adopt responsible practices, or would you prefer to maintain your competitive advantage in the light of growing consumer demands? Bob?
Well, the real answer, it should be yes. I think it should be in some way compulsory. But actually, when I talk to people, and I talk to a lot of people about becoming more sustainable, about joining Tourism Declares, I always say, do it because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing for you. It's the right thing for the environment. But at the moment, there is certainly a big advantage over your competitors who are not doing it, and there's a huge number of clients growing who are looking for a green stay, and they are going to be seeking out you if you've done some environmental initiatives. So of course we want everybody to do it, but at the moment, give yourself an advantage, do it and get it ahead of the competition. So go for it, I say.
Good. Any more, Tyann?
No, that's it. But Margot, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't, like, this is an inevitability. So that's it will become something that everybody does. It's kind of like the internet or cell phones, right? Like this is going to happen. So why not get ahead of it? Like Bob said, like, and even if everybody participates, like it's going to be degrees of how well people are doing it. So that's how I feel. I don't feel like this is like a, are we worried about competitive advantage? No, I mean, Andy and I are up here, we're direct competitors on the guidebooks, right? And we're like, no, let's do this together because we can be innovators, co-innovators in the industry. And there's plenty of space for us to both be talking about the great stuff that TouchStay is doing. TouchStay is hosting this webinar. TouchStay's amazingly led the way and bringing this conversation together. And I'm like so excited. I have no bad feelings or concerns about that. And we are direct competitors, right? And I think that's a good example of just like that there's so much space in this market for us to all innovate together. And this is one way we can do it, and it's going to help everybody. So please don't hold back.
Thank you. Nikki, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think that the sustainable community is about collaboration, not competition as well, because we can't achieve this unless, like Bob said, we all do it together. And I think also, why not be one of the pioneers and get in early rather than waiting just to sort of join on because you have to. And also when you're a smaller property owner, people will see through you if you're not doing it for the right reasons. Being authentic is important to people. And those of us who wouldn't want to save the planet, let's do it now. In fact, there's no time to wait. We need to do it now. And if others follow, brilliant. But, don't wait. Start today. Go and write your list now of what is really going to drive you to be part of saving the world for our kids.
What a perfect way to end, Nikki. I couldn't agree more. I will say there's one more thing that I think goes along with what we've been saying. I don't know if you've seen it. Chris Grime has put a message in the chat, and he said that one of my favorite quotes from Body Shop founder, Body Shop being a UK company, Anita Roddick, says, "If you think you are too small to have an impact, try going to bed with a mosquito in the room." And is that not inspiration enough to know that however small, big, otherwise you are, there is definitely the mosquito effect, the buzzing in the ear. So well said, Chris, thank you. Panelists, I thought it was a brilliant conversation. You all had amazing things to say, which is why we brought you on here, because we knew you would. So I really appreciate the hour that you spent with us, and all the attendees that were here with us. I hope you got something out of it. We'll share this link afterwards to all the people who registered. Tyann, anything parting to say, or have we covered it all?
I think we've got it. Well, there's one more low-hanging fruit I want to remind people is when you do make these commitments, make sure you tell people. Put it in your about section of your website, in your guidebook, put a making a difference section, put your mission statement, because unless you tell people that you're doing it, they're not going to know.
Good point. And with that, thank you very much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, rest of your week, rest of your year. See you guys.